Hello, hello. This is Ozge Kantas, the social psychologist, and welcome to the Psychosocial podcast. Today I am with Austin Willman. Hi, Austin.
Hi, Oske. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So we have such a different physical location exchange, I think, with you.
Yeah, we traded. We're on like a house swap, if you will.
Yeah. So I'm a Turkish living in US, and you are an American living in Turkey.
Yes, I'm Turkish, just a little. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, you're still working on that.
Hmm.
So, Austin, we met with you in a like a network event where we were totally vulnerable, totally transparent about falling down and standing up again. That was very moving. I guess I am as much as I impressed by your stories, you are impressed by my stories. So it is just how we are attracted towards each other to talk more about that. And I know we have many roles in our life, many different me's, many different selves in real life. However, when you are in here in this podcast, I really want to ask you to introduce yourself. Which eggs did you bring today to the basket of Austin?
Which eggs did you bring to the basket? Yes. Yeah, so Vulnerable Talks was really interesting because it talked about 2020 and kind of what were some of the areas where you fell down and how did you overcome them and how basically what were the learnings for the future. I mentioned some stuff about starting, I guess, ending kind of a chapter and starting anew in a bunch of different aspects of my life. I had quit a job that was wonderful in Malaysia and started my own kind of coaching business and entrepreneurial endeavors. With that ending of a chapter, I left Malaysia and came to now Istanbul. And so that
Mm-hmm.
was a closing of a chapter and opening up something new. I came here with my partner of over a year. And then after a month of being here, we closed that chapter and now opened up a new, I guess, revisited chapter of being a single person. And now I'm kind of, I guess, putting another chapter on pause and moving, well, as it is now, going back to the US and opening up another chapter there. So I think what I brought today is really this concept of turning the page and
Hmm.
just how okay that is. Because I think what sets me apart from a lot of my friends or family members or people that I talk to who even come to me for, let's call it, advice, although I'm not a licensed psychologist, I have a
Mhm.
psychology background.
Yeah.
Austin, how can you kind of continue to do this turning the page process and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
seem to bother you? And that's, I guess, where I'm at today is I feel like that's a special gift of mine, is just to not take things so seriously
Mm-hmm.
and realize that as much as I think other people's eyes are on me when I'm making transitions, that is the degree that other people's eyes are actually on themselves in their own lives and not on me.
Would you say that your signature strength is kind of being able to move on and flexibly and creatively?
Yeah, there's a yeah, I mean, I think transitioning is
Transition.
is one of my core kind of strengths. I have a very high risk tolerance and a very high tolerance for ambiguity as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, Ashton, as you said, you have a background in psychology and you are doing many, many things with this background. You do coaching, you are working on a like a social entrepreneurship project, which
Mhm.
I'm sure we will talk in the upcoming minutes, called Earth University.
Mhm.
Uh, and you said you were in US, you were in Malaysia, you are in Istanbul. So all those different places, spaces, ideas, and pages of your life, due to your best observation for others and experience with yourself, why do you think people don't like risks and cannot tolerate, and how dare they can?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's, well, fear, of course. Fear of
Mhm.
what? It will be fear of the unfamiliar. Because even if something is unfamiliar to us, if it's familiar and it's painful, then at least we know the extent of the pain. So it's if there's something that's unfamiliar, it might be even more painful or might be even more scary. And it always goes back to this. I think that just looking at the difference between kind of emotions and thought patterns and this perpetuation of a situation, like catastrophizing something instead of seeing it as face value at face
Mhm.
value. Oh, I could go here and maybe make less money. It's not that. It's like I could go here, make less money, and then my partner will break up with me, and then my family will disown me, and then I will be homeless on the street, and then I won't have anything to eat, and then I'll lose all my hair. Oh God. It's like this I think this rampant perpetuation of the worst thing that could happen is what holds people back. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, take that
When
imagination and put it towards something positive.
when you're plotting all those scenes, like being home towards being homeless, I was thinking about how powerful our brains in terms of anticipating the future. And I guess
Mm.
in a way, this is how we survived.
Yeah.
Anticipating the risks, anticipating the future, and navigating through dangers accordingly has a survival value for sure.
Mm.
However, we can misuse that power to catastrophize and live the disasters even before they happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Live it before it happens. And I think it's all about pattern recognition, right? It's
Hmm.
like the connection of like if this then this. So what's the last time that I don't know, more than likely we'll remember the things that caused us pain, such as I don't know, a classic example of touching the stove. How
Mhm,
many times have you learned that lesson? Probably just once.
mhm.
But when we're thinking of like a good scenario, we tend to overlook that because it's not, like you said, a defense mechanism. It hasn't kept us alive. Like eating the right berries is a gain, but avoiding the poisonous snake is something that we're more likely to remember and pass on.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that that's yeah.
And it applies to our relationships as well, I guess. This remind me a study, a research about close relationships. For every one negative experience, negative encounter with our partners, we need five more positive
Mm,
encounters or five more
mm,
positive experiences to go on to be able to at least balance.
mm.
I don't remember who were the researchers, but that was interesting to me to see that how we need more positive experiences, how we need more positivity and uh, good experiences to be able to hold that hope further instead of sticking to the disaster pieces.
Mm. Yeah, and what's really curious to me about that is like the weight of these two things and the weight in our imagination too.
Mhm,
Because if we're saying, okay, one bad experience equals five good experiences,
mhm,
then what is the same thing in the imagination when we're anticipating the future?
mhm,
Is it the same thing? Like I have to imagine a future where the good five times outweighs the bad in order for
mhm.
me to take that action. Now we're talking about something because we're basing it on, let's say, some scientific proof uh, of these things of how we act in particular relationships. Does that transfer over to things that have not yet happened, and does that affect our decision making? I think it does, and it
Mhm.
depends on focused energy. Actually, I'll bring this up. So we have this water bottle, and I used this the other day in a conversation. I said, okay, is this bottle half full or it's half empty? And the guy was like, well, I always see it half full. And I was like, well, they're both wrong. It's completely full. It's just two different substances. It's water and
Wow.
it just depends on what you're focusing on. It depends
Yeah,
on what you're looking at because it's all you will always be able to find whatever you look at,
yeah.
whatever you're looking for.
You're right. It is totally full, half with
Yeah.
water, half with air.
Yeah.
I like that metaphor.
So now, just like, let's say, if we're saying I no longer smoke cigarettes, for
Mhm,
an example,
Yeah,
Now
congratulations for that, by the way.
yes, thank you. But if we're saying, okay, I'm getting rid of this habit or whatever it is, it's not, yes, you're getting rid of it, but the time still remains. The time continuum still remains. So you're actually replacing that with something else. So I think that's, I don't know, a little bit off from the conversation that we're having, but it's just another thing to think
Yeah.
about is like, what are you replacing your time with?
And I think this is a piece of your coaching work, I guess, right? You do a lot of coaching to leaders, to professionals who want to change their pattern and recognition of that pattern, what is not going well for them, and then so that replacing those ingredients with something else. What approach do you use? What type of, do you have a framework, or do you have a plan strategy when working with people, coaching people, or is it based on their needs or their subjects that they're bringing?
Well, coincidentally, actually, probably not coincidentally, this is probably intentional, but a lot of the people that I work with want to transition into something else.
Oh yeah, why not?
Maybe that's why they're attracted to the style I bring.
Mhm.
So it really kind of what we do there is I call it 3 V's. And sometimes this is the correct way. I find most of the times with the clients that I'm working with, we start with values and say, what is it that drives you? Like, what do you actually want and what has brought you to this point? Kind of how are you expressing yourself now? And then vision, of course, is the future. Where do you want to go? How would you imagine the world in a perfect scenario? And then we talk about velocity, which is how can we accelerate faster in the direction of that vision by using the vehicle of your values to make your decisions to help you get there. So velocity is like the resources, the people, the jobs, even the projects that you're going to work on, the organizations that you're going to be a part of. What are those things that you need to involve yourself in to take you from here to there?
It sounds like the action items.
Yeah, if you want to think of it that way.
If the values are like the emotions, vision are like the thought process, the cognitions, and velocity is the behaviors, as it sounds like the ABC of uh, human life, like affect, behavior, and cognition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
I
there's
like
some
that.
of that probably underlying terminology or underlying scientific vernacular in probably most coaching or most, achievement oriented programs is like, okay, well, we have to understand that yes, we are one being here, but it's very compartmentalized: emotions, actions, thought processes. There's kind of those 3 components that take you from here to there. Yeah.
And let me ask you this: what is your value, vision, and velocity to do such a work?
Yeah. So the values are have fun
Oh,
and play. That's a big one.
I
Find
totally agree
flow.
with you.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. Having fun is, for me, the biggest thing that is underestimated in work life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you're having fun, now you're noticing that this bottle is not empty. You're noticing, there's something actually still there. It's this, right? Instead of saying, oh, well, it's all crap. Well, no, it's not. It's crap. And you can choose to acknowledge that. And when you're in a fun, elevated state, that's what you're able to look at.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but I couldn't stop myself jumping to the fun piece of your values.
Well, it makes a difference, doesn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, when you're having fun, like that's when time goes by the quickest, as opposed to when you're really hungry and you're not enjoying what you do. Like somebody bewitched the clock to go twice as slow. It's just, I don't know. We've all experienced this thing, and yet for some reason, since it's not in our job description, we think that it's bad. We're not supposed to have fun. So anyway, have fun and play is my number 1 value. Find
That's
flow.
very important. Yeah.
That's my other value. Choose the adventure is a third one, and impress future me is a big one too. So those kind of keep me in line. They help me make my decisions. I use those as a broad decision making framework to point me in the right direction.
Wow.
Yeah.
So clear. And I
Yeah.
think clarity is what helps, what really helps you towards your goals, end goals, to attain your outcomes. And one of the goals you have is the Earth University project. Would you like to tell a little bit more about that, or would you like to keep it as a secret?
Yeah. No. It's not a secret, but it is in the very early stages. So Earth University is a school for applied purpose and a global campus.
Mhm,
And we're essentially shifting organizations' culture from the inside out by applying radical self-care to
mhm.
its leadership team.
Wow.
So we're aligning people back to their true north and finding their lights on energy through mentoring sessions, through one-on-one mentoring sessions. We believe that if people can understand and decipher between when their lights on and when they're just logically thinking,
Mhm,
or societally thinking of, this is what I should do, this is what my
mhm,
mom told me, this is what my boss wants, as opposed to having fun and play, and they're being lit up. If we can help people decipher when they're in this state, then they can find that state more often and bring it into the organization. And
mm,
as you and I just briefly touched upon, when you're in that happy, resourceful state, things seem to flow a lot easier.
mhm.
You're much more resourceful. Time goes by quicker. You're more enthused to wake up early and stay late and help people and smile the whole time.
You're more in tune to your authentic self, and you are running by your intrinsic motivation, autonomous motivation, rather than have to, should, musts have. Yeah, this really creates a different. And I guess in work life there is a traditional misunderstanding of it has to be serious and boring. By
Mm,
saying serious, it connotates like it has to be boring.
right.
You shouldn't be bringing your personal issues or personal characteristics to work. So it's kind of self neglect. Whereas what you're talking about is self care, and not with a selfish purpose. It's not, oh, I'm very important. I come first from everything. It's not like that. But taking care of yourself, being playful and having fun, enjoying what you are doing, having that state of flow, really what determines how successful you will be at that task or at that work. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing up this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's what I spend a lot of my time on these days. And the
Mhm,
just for anyone who might be interested in learning more, it's of course earth.university.
mhm,
And the future of this program is to connect these kind of heart-centered coaches and mentors and muses, whatever you want to call them. We'll call them mentors for now,
mhm,
and leaders in organizations, and connect the two. So this
mhm.
is not only for leaders in organizations and Humanity Plus organizations, it's also for coaches who are looking to help more people. At Earth University, we bring them into the same classroom so they can connect with the right people. So that's kind of the value proposition that we're bringing to the table that's a little bit different, I think, is to have these, we'll call them passion professors, who are
Mhm.
working on their own
Ah.
stuff, and they're helping people find their lights on and find their true north and get reconnected with themselves. So we're able to do that on campus and connect the two.
I like the term passion professors. Can I
Mm.
be one of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the co-founder Lindsay is she also has a podcast, and it's called Passion Professors, where she talks about people who are pursuing their lights on passions.
Wow,
Yeah,
perfect.
it's
Yeah,
cool.
uh, really, many people in life search their meaning of life, and sometimes it's very overwhelming and creates another stress. Like, oh my God, where is my life purpose? Where do I find my passion? Where did I lost it? So it's like as if it is somewhere unattainable at the top of Mount Everest that people need to struggle and seek for and suffer to reach that highest point and highest experience of humanity. Do you think passion is something like that unattainable? that far away or that painful?
The question that I would ask is, what are you sacrificing in order to do whatever it is that you're passionate about? Because the etymology of passion refers to the passion of the Christ, which means what did you, you know, give up in order for something that you love? So I kind of bring the I have a passion for cupcakes. Like, okay, great. What are you giving up in order to pursue cupcakes? A lot of people will say, well, nothing really. I said, okay, so maybe we can think about a different word for cupcakes that describes your feeling a little better. But I think that, you know, the passion is, what are you willing to do, even though it's painful, for, I don't know, people like myself or the people that you are working with as well, and yourself included, entrepreneurs. What is it that you're giving up in order to pursue your mission? It's probably some stability, probably some social status, probably some social acceptance from people who are just saying, why don't you just stick to what you know and what you're good at,
Mhm.
instead of trying to do this, you know, big thing. That might be something that you're sacrificing in order to pursue this. But I think it's, yeah, like you said, it's not at the top of Mount Everest. It's just finding, when do I find those moments of flow? When do I find those periods where I lose sense of time and self and care and identity? When do I lose that? And how can I create more of it, or at least identify more of it in my life?
So it's not very, very further away that a person needs to leave everything beyond and just seek for that. But what I hear is it is somewhere around us. And as long as we do that self-exploration
Mm.
for that and be willing to give up some other things for that, it is already apparent in our life maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Mhm.
it's like, the challenge is not to go and get, the challenge is to accept what's
Oh.
already there.
Mhm.
That's the challenge. Because particularly for masculine energy, we think that we can just go get it. Like, I'm just going to go and hustle and make it happen. I'm just going to create it and do whatever. Like, I'm going to go penetrate the world. But what it really is saying, is it okay for you to sit in the chair and say, I already have everything? That's really difficult, because
Mhm.
that has to intrinsically say, I'm already good enough. I don't need anything else, which is very difficult, particularly in consumer societies like America that always say you
Yes.
always need something else.
Go, 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 do, get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is something else, and it really pushes people, even people in the mental health domain, or even for the people with a psychology background. It is also a trap that you haven't helped enough people yet. You didn't still do, you haven't done still yet enough. So it's kind of even if scientifically we kind of know that good enough is what we need, and like unrealistic expectations are what causes strains, pains. Still, we also can time to time fall into that trap, and I think the culture, the consumeristic culture, really provokes that feeling of you're not enough yet. You haven't done enough yet. There is still more. You have to attain more. You have to get that more and more. And yeah, when seeking perfection, when seeking excellence, we really sometimes don't see what we already have. It is touching.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the, you know, vision set for yourself about
Mhm,
what success looks like, then
mhm,
it will continually be someone else's decision. It will always be someone else's decision unless you decide what you want for yourself. And in
mhm,
order to do that, I think you have to have a vision of what that looks like, and a framework to help you make the decisions on the way to the vision, which are, in my case, values, right?
mhm. Wow,
So
yeah.
because I have, and probably for you as well, I'm not sure, but because I have some of these decision making frameworks, a vision for myself where to go, and I understand the projects and the people and the tools and the resources that I'm going to need to take me there, it's hard to sway me into stuff that I don't need.
Mhm. So it,
It's very easy for me to say no.
yes, I was going to say that. So that it determines for what things you will say yes and for what kind of things you will say no. Because every yes is a no to other things, and every no is yes to other things. So it's like an integration of what you're accepting and what you are pushing aside. Like what
Mm,
you are, as you said, what you are sacrificing, and what do you give up? What are you willing to give up? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We cannot say yes to everything. Let's
So
highlight
true.
this. We cannot say yes to everything.
Right, right. As much as we want to sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we have limits. Let's accept that.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
limits. Even
For some
for
things,
the
right?
yeah, even for cupcakes, as you mentioned. I sometimes I feel like I can eat all the chocolates in the market shelves in the house, but yeah, I have even limit to how much chocolate I can eat in a day.
Yeah, so true. You have to say, okay, well, my vision is to feel a certain way, and I know that
Mhm.
if yeah, if my value were gluttony, or if my value were I don't know, fully extend everything all the time, then it might fall in line where
Mhm.
you're saying, okay, it's my value to eat all the chocolate every single time I see it. You're like, okay, well, hey, you know what? If that makes you congruent in your life, more power to you. That's what I would say. If that's aligning your thoughts and your emotions and your words and your actions, to me, that's my success. That is my version of success when
Mhm.
all of those are aligned.
Yeah, not really. My value is not to consume all the chocolates that I. So I think I can stop at a point.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Austin, yeah, this is such an unstructured conversation, which gives the structure itself. So
Mm,
it's like the social and psychological aspects of everyday life or work life is what I enjoy talking with my guests in this podcast. So I never plan what I will ask in advance in a very structured way, but I
mm,
really enjoy how the conversation what the conversation brings us. And
mm,
you brought a lot of things today that I really want to highlight and I really want to emphasize once more, and which first of all is having fun. The importance of having fun.
so
And
true.
you said finding your flow while having fun
Yeah.
and then choosing the adventure. I really like that piece as well. You said it is very important to choose the adventure,
Mm,
which maybe really helps us to cope with the fear of unfamiliar so that it increases the risk tolerance and ambiguity tolerance for us. And I don't think it's a coincidence, as you said, people who are in the stage of their life where they want to transition to something else pick you to work with
yeah.
because it
Yeah.
sounds like you have done a lot of times transitioning, and yeah, do you have those like powers and strengths to use that as a passion professor
Mm,
yourself?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say if I am someone at a point where I really want to transition to somewhere else in my life, not geographically, but maybe career wise. I need to stop or end, come to an end to a page and flip the page to something else. What I should be considering first? Or what would you
Mm,
suggest me to consider first while
hmm.
flipping that page?
Step one, values, right?
Mhm.
What is it that you value, and what was the misalignment in your previous job? Why do you feel like it's a time for you to go on? And here's the paradox: is values are something that are deep and core and like
Mhm.
help you drive your decisions on a fundamental
Mhm.
basis. But at the same time, your reason for leaving could be as simple as, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm bored. You know?
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, um, since you don't want to do this anymore, that's fine. When it comes to determining what you want to do next, instead of haphazardly saying, okay, I'm in a space of ambiguity. I'm going to take the first thing that comes. Again, one of my powers is saying, everything's going to be okay. Let's stay in this space of ambiguity a little bit longer until the right opportunity comes. And we can know when the right opportunity comes by identifying the values and what that actually looks like, so you can pull the trigger when it's the right time. So
Mhm.
I would say number one is, and there's an easy resource, it's called personal valu.es, personal
Mhm.
values, where you can take a free assessment and it pops out your top 5 values. That's a good place to start.
Yeah,
And then
it's a
you
good
can
resource.
create, yeah. And then you can kind of start to create your own, like I have, like have fun and play is not a value. Follow the adventure is not a value you'll get on that website,
Mhm.
or find flow. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I would say, what is it in the next step that you want to build your life around?
Mhm. Do you think earning more money is a value? Can that be a energizing, moving piece while transitioning?
Hmm. Okay.
Or financial security, let's say, because we are in the middle of a pandemic,
Hmm.
and I'm sure many people who are not happy with their current jobs,
Hmm.
considering switching, but at the same time hesitant or not to do so
Hmm. Hmm.
due to increased unemployment, due to increased financial instability. Do you
Hmm.
think it's a good reason to stay in a job?
Um, Definitely is going to be up to the individual, because if, and here's a concept that I learned: when money comes in,
Mhm,
let's say it's like rainfall,
mhm,
okay, and it lands in a basin,
mhm,
and then your expenditures are the water that flows out into the stream, and then it goes back out into the ecosystem.
mhm,
What happens is, a lot of the times when the rain falls into the basin, there's no dam in order
mhm,
to catch what needs to go out and what needs to stay in the basin. So I would say, let's determine how big of a dam we need to build, and first determine how much needs to stay in the basin before we send everything back out into the ecosystem.
mhm,
So if you're looking at financial stability, I would say, do you have a formal and strong understanding of your balance sheet, your individual balance sheet? Because if you don't, then you'll probably be in the same position in the next position or anywhere you go. Unless you're aware and you understand what's happening with finance or with your emotions or with your relationships or
mhm.
anything else, like unless you take a look at it, you become aware, and then you understand of what the components are, it's just going to continue and perpetuate anywhere you go. So if you're saying I need financial stability, I would say, okay, what does financial stability specifically look like to you, and
Hmm.
can we replicate this elsewhere?
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Makes sense. That's why, and as you said, this is a very personal answer to this question.
Yeah.
So there is no one should change their job in the middle of a pandemic versus yes, no matter what, change your job even during a pandemic. So
Like
there
I
is no
did.
such a yeah, yeah. I think you're an outlier in terms of
Yeah, but here's the
taking risks.
deal. So I can say that, and I can tell you all the fun and exciting benefits and experience that it got me, and how it caused me to be more resilient and connect with you and
Mhm,
travel the world,
mhm,
because I left a job in the middle of a pandemic. However, I will also acknowledge that I have 100 safety nets, not only financially, but I have an American passport. I
mhm.
also have a family who is happy and willing to take care of me. My mom continues to invite me back to her place. She said, "Oh, we have your old bedroom where you used to stay with us." So in my situation, it was easy for me because I knew I'm not going to be homeless no matter what. Like,
Mhm,
I've had some pretty low financial circumstances in the past 6 months, but I've
mhm,
never even skipped a meal. Like,
mhm,
it's never even happened. I've sweat a lot over money,
mhm.
but at the same time, I know that if the worst thing happens, I can just call someone and I can get flown back to the US. I have an
Mhm.
out, but that's just me. And I'll acknowledge
Yeah,
that. Not everybody has that.
it depends on what type of resources you have and how much of those resources you are aware of that you have.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm very grateful for my scenario. I also
Mhm.
acknowledge that it's a special circumstance and not
Yeah.
everybody has that
Mhm.
luxury.
And someone else might have some other resources that you don't have. So it's about really looking for what type of resources you already have. And
Hmm.
as you said, what is financial stability for you? What is a risk for you?
Mm.
For my dad, for example, uh, going to a vacation out of Turkey is a big risk. Not saying moving to another country,
Hmm.
going to a vacation is also a very big risk because he's very picky in terms of what he eats. He loves Turkish food, and his biggest concern is, what if I cannot find the Turkish food where I go? So
That's hilarious.
yeah, I mean, you are familiar with Turkish food, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
you can appreciate a little bit at least his
Yeah, his concern, of course.
his
Oh my
concern.
gosh, this country doesn't have Turkish breakfast. What am I gonna do?
So for him, this is a really big risk.
Mm.
Even though it is not a financial instability, like
Mhm.
he have the money to have any kind of meals wherever he goes.
Mhm.
However, what is risky is, what if I don't like that food?
Mm.
So this is a maybe very extreme example of what risk and what the difference between what a risk looks like and what a financial stability looks like. But
Mhm.
at least this is the case for my father. So I just wanted to give this as an example. uh, we don't need to be the same. We don't need to be similar in terms of what we need and what we have. It's all about to what extent we are aware of what we have and what we need.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and then with the food thing, I will loop it back around to previously in the conversation where we were talking about catastrophizing and the
Mhm.
perpetuation of negative thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he will probably be okay if he can't find a Turkish restaurant in a new country. Let's think about what that thought cycle might look like. Oh, if I can't find a Turkish restaurant, I'm going to go really hungry, and then I'm going to be grumpy, and then it's going to be a waste of money for me, and then I'm not even going to have fun, and then I won't connect with people. Maybe I'll miss my flight. Who
Yeah,
knows,
who knows? Yeah, yeah. Well, my father won't be able to listen and understand what we are talking here. So sorry that we made you the subject of our conversation.
His ears are ringing right now. He's like,
Yeah, probably. What is
about
going on?
me.
Okay. Well, Austin, thank you very much for being with me and chatting with me. That was awesome. And I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed the perspective that you're giving in terms of transitioning because we just started the new year. And I'm sure more or less everyone had some amazing resolutions. I will do this, I will do that, I will be such a person in the new year, I won't be doing this and that. So these are big resolutions that probably, this is January 23rd, probably more than half of them are failing right now, all those resolutions, because transitioning is hard. Like wanting something to happen is different than really planning that thing to happen. So I hope what we have discussed so far will help to those who will listen us. A transition can be something very small. A transition can be something very big, like a life-changing event. Whatever it is, may the joy, may the fun, may the flow be with you.
I like that. May the flow
Yeah.
be with you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Is there anything that you think I should have asked you, but I didn't?
I think if there's the question that you should ask me is if there's one thing
Hmm.
that you want to leave our audience with, what would it be?
Okay, let me ask you this. Austin, if there's one thing that you want to leave with our audiences, what is that?
If I could put something on a billboard that I wish the whole world could see, it would
Mhm.
be opportunity naturally opens when you become who you are.
Repeat it again. That's amazing.
Opportunity opportunity naturally opens when you become who you are.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for your last sentences that I forgot to ask you, but you kindly remind me to ask.
Beautiful. Thank you for that opportunity.
And I really enjoyed my coffee. Meanwhile, we are chatting with you. So there's a saying in Turkish. I'm not sure whether you have heard yet. A cup of coffee has the how can we say have that the gratitude of 40 years.
Ah,
So
I like that.
it's like when we drink a coffee with you and chat, it means like it's a kind of promise that we would be nice to each other for 40 more years.
Mm,
for
wow.
for just the sake of the cup of coffee that we had together.
I like that. Maybe that should be on a billboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I promise that I will be nice to you and grateful to our encounter for the upcoming 40 years, Austin.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm so looking forward to that. But year 41, you better watch out.
Oh. I think this is a very old saying, and it comes from the average adult life.
Yeah,
And
right?
yeah, the life
Basically,
expectation was
40 years.
lower. Yeah.
I'll be nice to you till one of us dies. How about that?
Okay. Deal.
That's a new age saying. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And have a nice day. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.